Today, a Redditor shares a crazy story of forgetting cultural standards when they were eating edibles. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, today I messed up by not picking up her signs in Vegas. I'm in Vegas for a work conference for 3 days. I met a girl from South Korea in the elevator ride in my room after checking in. I helped her with her bags after I saw her struggle getting them into the elevator to our room. We exchanged WhatsApp contact info and messaged each other throughout the week. She told me she's visiting all the major US cities before she went to South Korea. On the last night, she sends me a sexy picture on WhatsApp telling me I was cute and she was sad I didn't find her attractive. I didn't get the vibe she wanted more than friendship from our conversation, but I was wrong. I told her we could meet up downstairs, have a drink, and take it from there. She messaged back saying that she changed her mind. This isn't the first time I had a girl tell me I missed the signs. So, depending on OP's priorities and how OP feels, it might not necessarily be a bad thing that OP did here. You know, you're obviously going to have people out there that said, oh, OP's so dumb, they blew it, they could have had an opportunity right there and they just straight up said no. But maybe OP isn't the type of person that wanted to take it fast and furious, you know? OP's reaction could have easily have been seen as, look, I appreciate it, but I don't want to jump straight into bed with you. Yadsinip commented, I remember in high school a girl drove me home from school. We were sitting in my driveway talking and she just casually mentioned that she shaved her legs and asked if I'd like to see how smooth they were. I touched them and said, yeah, pretty smooth. Thanks for the ride, and got out. Pretty sure I missed something there. Cross22 commented, a female friend in high school called me in the evening and asked if I could drive her somewhere. I thought, well, maybe she has to go somewhere urgently and needs help. Instead, she navigated us to the middle of a cornfield and I was rather confused what that was about. Only when she turned and smiled at me saying, so what are you thinking about right now? Did the reality of it sink in. I thought of her more like a sister, so I made up some excuses and drove her back. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy crazy stories of how Redditors messed up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, today I messed up by using a leaf blower on my kids. I have twin 3-year-old boys, and they're very active and silly. Well, the other day I was doing some yard work and using my leaf blower to clear away some grass and dirt. Naturally, they're infatuated, so I used the leaf blower on them and they love it. Started chasing them around the neighborhood with the leaf blower, pretending they were leaves. Good old wholesome father-son fun, right? Well, naturally, now they want me to use the leaf blower on them all the time. No biggie, it's a fun game and I like playing with my electric leaf blower, only now it's everywhere, including places where I don't have my leaf blower, so instead I have to pretend to blow them away like I'm blowing out a candle. Still fine. All day for the last 3 days, it's been, Dad, can you blow me away? Very cute stuff. Well, this morning we're at Target and the kids are getting a tad squirrely. They wanted to go to the park. And I said we can go after we finish up here. They're dancing around the aisles, being toddlers, and then my son comes up to me in the main aisle and in his biggest toddler yell shouts, Dada, can you blow me? Cue 5 people turning around to look at me and my kid. You would think by now I would be immune to toddler-based embarrassment, but nah. So me, in my quietest voice, face feeling redder than a Macintosh apple, respond, Buddy, inside voice, do you mean you want me to blow you away? Son 1 replies, yes, blow me, excited toddler jumping. Son 2 says, yeah, blow me too, Dada. I say, boys, inside voices please, you mean blow you away, right? How do you ask for that? The sons reply, please may you blow us away. I blew them away and they go dancing off like leaves. The others who were watching laugh and giggle. One of the other guys nearby gives me a knowing smirk that clearly said, been there. Proceed to finish the quickest Target run of my life. You know, all I can say is, if I was any of those other people in the store witnessing what just happened here, I certainly wouldn't be one of the ones giving that knowing, been there myself, glances at him. I'd probably just watch how it all played out and then walk away with that wide-eyed look on my face saying to myself, thank you-know-whating God. Rainwepidermis commented, a lifetime ago I was shopping with my 3 or 4-year-old niece and her favorite toy was a small plastic figurine Puss in Boots from the Shrek franchise. That day she dropped it and started wailing, my puss, my softie, at the top of her lungs. No word of a lie, a nun is watching as I scamper to quickly retrieve said toy and loudly present it back to her with an emphasis on in boots. Mortified, wanted to blend into the milk display. Silami commented, "Not that I've met many, but every nun I've met would consider that the highlight of her week and be retelling that story for years." Our next story is, today I messed up by going through an interview with zero experience. Oh boy, that was awkward. I was on LinkedIn when I saw this post about an engineering job for this big company. It clearly says 5 years of experience, which I do have, but not in the role needed. I said to myself, screw it, I'll apply. What's the worst that's gonna happen? I used LaTeX to write a custom CV. Just before I applied to the job, I said to myself, every time I apply for a job, 99% I don't get the chance to do an interview. I will trick the ATS system. So I put in so many keywords in the resume as white font that will only be read by the ATS, and I applied for the job. A few days later, I received a call about the interview date and time. Oh boy, it's happening. I started to prepare like heck and went to the interview. It was a very intense and detailed engineering interview, purely technical, a question after another for 45 minutes. I was doing okay for the most part until I broke down and couldn't answer, do you know X? Given Y, how would Z be affected? Write the code to reduce the computing complexity of ABC given that DEF. After those questions, I said to myself, they know everything and they're trolling me. So I was just honest and replied, I don't know. Surprisingly, when the interview ended, they cheered me up and said that we didn't find a candidate with this level of knowledge so far. I was stunned and holding my laughter. They said they'll reply to me if I got accepted. Honestly, I don't even mind if I don't. You know, I don't really know how to take that admission from them where they said, we haven't met anybody in an interview that even had this level of knowledge. Like, does that kind of imply that they're looking for somebody that's like well beyond the actual scope of the job? Like somebody that's so far over-accredited but is going to be underpaid? Schneer5 commented, I do CAD work, so it's like engineering, but I only have an associate's degree. I had a job interview about 10 years ago and I hadn't used the software that they used since school, so I was pretty rusty. The boss lady who did my interview asked me to recreate a drawing that she had just opened and deleted and left the same file open on another screen. I just sat there, freaking out because I had no idea what to do until I just undid her delete and then just did some random stuff and deleted it, so if she checked, then it wouldn't just show that I undeleted it and I got the job. Our next story is, today I messed up by discussing movies in the hospital. This happened last week. I was in the hospital for a severe infection, which is a recurring problem because of my cancer. This time was bad. I passed out waiting to get a cancer treatment. I remember little besides brief flashes of EMTs and an ambulance roof. I was hallucinating and disassociating the whole time in the ER and the next day. I really thought my ticket was getting punched this time. This story isn't about that, it's just background. A few days later, I've got a ton of antibiotics, hydration, and 5 units of blood pumped into me, and I'm feeling much better. My parents were visiting and my mom and I were having a nice conversation about movies. A little more background, my mom is racist against self-aware robots in fiction, has no use for them. I was telling her about the movies I'd seen recently that I really enjoyed, first Sinners, then Companion. As I was describing Companion, she suddenly said, "Is that the one where the guy and the little robot break into the library?" I said, "Mom, not every robot is a robot and Frank." A second later, the entire floor staff burst into my room, including a cardiology nurse with an advanced heart monitor. Apparently, I got too excited and it caused some kind of cardiac event. Took an hour for the staff to decide I wasn't in imminent danger, but they did put me on medication to stabilize my heart rate. Wacky fun. I'm still laughing about it. Man, I'm just really pulling for OP here. You know, I'm hoping that being able to even just share this story and have everybody else kind of enjoy the moment where the doctors rush in and go, "Oh my God, what is happening?" Trying to calm them down. No, it's okay. It's all just about self-aware robots in fiction. It's just really enjoyable to get to hear that story, and you can't help but not root for OP and hope and wish for the best. KittyCat723 commented, "I'm sorry you're going through such challenging health issues. I wish you nothing but the best in healing, but please explain how someone can be racist against robots?" OP responded commenting, "Anything with a robot in it, she doesn't like the robot." C-3PO, R2-D2, the Iron Giant, freaking Wally. She's creeped out by machines acting like people and can't accept the idea, even as fiction, that machines can be sentient. Our next story is, today I messed up by showering at the wrong time. This was a few months ago. It was my day off and the only thing I had to do was pick up my girlfriend from work at 9 p.m. Other than that, I was free to loaf on the couch from morning to night, which is what I did. Around 8 o'clock, I decided to shower before I left the house. Now, I have short hair that dries pretty quickly, but I'm deeply vain about it. So I always dried with the hairdryer right after I shower to ensure my hair doesn't get flat and weird. I never skip this step, so I get out of the shower, start drying my hair, and then I wake up in bed. It's a half an hour later. I feel like garbage, my entire body mysteriously hurts, and I'm slowly realizing that I don't remember exiting the bathroom. My only clear thought is, oh crap, it's 9 o'clock. I have to pick up my girlfriend. Better shake myself awake. I dragged my aching carcass back to the bathroom, and this was when I noticed the massive blisters forming all over my hand. I was still pretty out of it, but I knew that this was a hospital visit kind of burn. My girlfriend then called to check in because I was running late, and despite my undoubtedly convincing argument that I was still perfectly fine to drive, she immediately knew something was wrong. She cabbed home and we got a ride to the ER. Turns out, I had my first ever seizure. It seems like during the seizure, I clenched the hairdryer in my fist and had it pointed at my other hand long enough to thoroughly cook it. The tissue loss is pretty deep in some areas, and there was concerns about me retaining my mobility, but it's been healing well so far. If I had showered at any other time, I probably would have been reclining on a soft surface when I seized. Instead, it had to happen while doing the only possibly risky activity I could muster up the energy for that day. Aside from picking my girlfriend up, thank Christ I wasn't driving. In the end, we spent 10 hours in the ER between all the scans and tests. I was bedridden for almost a month, my license was suspended, and I'll have some gnarly scars for the rest of my life. You know, thankfully I haven't experienced anything quite like that, but I gotta be honest, on a personal level, the idea of having a seizure is definitely a huge fear of mine, especially as I continue to get older and older and the risk continues to rise from the non-zero percentile it started at. Thankfully for OP, what's important is they're still functional. It didn't seem to truly affect them, and it sounds like their hand's probably gonna be alright. Slapshots1515 commented, I know someone who had their first ever seizure while driving with no prior warning. The burn to your hand sucks, but this could have been so much worse. Get well soon, OP. Garden Secret 2743 commented, oof, I had my first seizure while behind the wheel. I broke my back, but thankfully nobody else was hurt. I don't know if I could have lived if someone was. Our next story is, today I messed up by not asking for a cute guy's number. So, hi, I'm back once again. As I said in my post, I'm 20 years old and I have cerebral palsy. My caregiver and I were strolling at Walmart. We were both strolling in the freezer section, and this guy walked up asking if we needed water. I said yes, thinking he thought from somewhere else, but he did give me a water bottle from the employee section. Now, I'd wandered off because I was a bit chilly, and I guess while I was gone to the game section of Walmart, he came back and asked for me, wondering where I was and all that. He apparently said he thought I was really pretty too. Now, at that point, my caregiver had told me that when we had left the store and were heading back home. Now, my caregiver thinks he was a little too old. So, I'm gonna be honest, life's too short. If there is a possible connection there, is it not worth going back and trying to see if there is something? I mean, the perfect convenience of this is the fact that it's at a store. If there's one place that gives you the perfect alibi of just being back in the same exact place where that guy is, the perfect candidate is rhetorical here. John H. 2005 commented, my advice is to write a little note for him. Hey, I thought you were cute. I didn't find out you said anything until after we left. Sorry, but here's my number or Insta. Call me and let's chat, text, or whatever. OP responded commenting, I might actually do that, but I'm also low-key hoping he finds this post on Reddit too. Not gonna lie, but on a serious note, I've thought about doing that next time we head over there. Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally making a group chat with 2 women. I've been seeing a few women romantically the past few months. None of them are exclusive, but I like each of them quite a bit. I like to send TikToks to them based on who I think would enjoy it. Oftentimes, I end up sending the same TikTok to a few of them. Within the past hour, I found a pretty funny one that had a slight sexual undertone. I meant to send it to a girl I've seen already, we're actually supposed to meet again tomorrow, and a girl I recently started talking to again, no dates yet. Instead of sending it to each of them separately, I accidentally created a group chat with the three of us and it was sent there. They have never met, and this TikTok is the only thing in that group. I deleted the group on my end and resent the TikTok to our respective one-on-one conversations, waiting to see what they say and hoping for the best. You know, there's a lot of stories that I hear that I end up not being able to relate to on some level, like it takes place in a country where I just can't really imagine living there. It's from the perspective of a woman. It's in an engineering field or a job I have no experience in, and then one comes along like this and it just makes me feel like we're just two completely different people. It just feels bizarre to me to casually open your Reddit post with, yeah, I've been seeing a few women romantically the past few months. Yeah, I've got a few sneaky links. Anyways, I accidentally sent a TikTok to both of them. Tomatka1234 commented, man, I just hate the culture of dating multiple people at once. I get that it's probably normal now, but it just doesn't sit right with me. My girlfriend and I went on our first date together and agreed the same night that we would be exclusive. To be fair, it was an amazing date and we'd been talking for the entire previous month through video though. We've had a great relationship since then, about 2 months later now. I'm super lucky I've never had to deal with promiscuity. Reptilian commented, welcome to the market condition of online dating. Most of us get little to no attention. A few of us get so much attention that it's just not worth being exclusive until you get into significant emotional investment. Our next story is, today I messed up by digging too deep into the family album. This is my second account since this is crazy. I recently got married and I went to my folks yesterday to add the pics to our albums. When I went to the basement to grab the family albums, I ended up flipping through out of curiosity and noticed a guy I didn't recognize in a lot of the pictures. My mom has a huge family, so I don't know everyone, but this guy was in photos of just her parents, and my late aunt. The weirdest was a Christmas card that had everyone's names on it. The naming system in our culture is complex, but you only share a last name with your mother and siblings, unless you get married and change it. Not with cousins, grandparents, etc. Well, this guy was listed on the card and had my mom's maiden name as his last name. My mom ended up coming in since I was taking so long, and I asked her who it was, and she tried to say she didn't know. I kept pushing, and then she got upset and left. My dad asked what happened, and I showed him the picture, and he immediately looked uncomfortable and told me to drop it. Well, after a lot of nagging, hours, he told me. That guy is my mom's older brother who's serving life in prison. My dad refused to say more because it would upset my mom, and my mom is ignoring me, which is really unlike her. She's very communication orientated. I have an older brother and I haven't even told him yet since this is so insane. I feel like I'm dreaming. How could they keep something like this from me for so long? Especially since he was in pictures where my mom was a teen and her and my dad started dating around that time. So that must mean my dad knows him too, right? Anyway, it's been a day and my mom's still not talking to me. This is seriously so weird. So I definitely don't want to assume things, but let's just take it at face value. This guy was described to OP as serving life in prison. Whatever they did, clearly it greatly impacted OP's mom. Whether it's a direct or indirect thing, she clearly doesn't want to talk about it. Is it really fair to keep prying and pushing on her and trying to force her to relive stuff that clearly has been kind of kept under wraps for decades? Drexler the Terrible commented, I strongly suggest dropping this. No good will come of it based on your mom's reaction and your dad's. There's a big chance your mom is a victim of his. There's a reason the whole extended family kept the next generation from knowing about it. Our next story is, today I messed up by cheering for Star Wars in lecture hall. This was over 20 years ago, but it's kind of funny and thought people might enjoy my teenage pain. I was in high school and The Phantom Menace had recently come out. When I saw it and the Star Wars logo appeared, everyone cheered their butts off. Cut to a lecture being given at my school a short time later. 200 plus students, all boys school, and the teacher had put the Star Wars logo clip in his PowerPoint presentation to spice it up a little. Instantly I shout, woo, and start clapping like I had in a theater a short time ago. The thing is, I wasn't doing this to be a little crap. I somehow, in that moment, stupidly, fully believed everyone in the lecture was going to do the exact same thing. That we were all on board with a thing that I had a zero reason to believe we were all on board with. So there I was, alone, in a quiet lecture hall, cheering for Star Wars. I was not a popular kid. You think? And everyone just started snickering and laughing at me. The teacher goes, "Mr. OP, see me after class." And I sat there thinking, why the freak did I do that? I can't recall if I got detention or not. I was a generally good kid and the teacher may have let me off the hook, but it was embarrassing as heck. You know, this story kind of reminds me of a story when I was a kid and I was super dumb on the school bus ride back home. In the morning, the bus driver clearly explained that when the ACs, which thank God the bus had ACs then, were set to low or running a little quieter, that it would be nice if the general volume level went down. Well, later in the afternoon, and this is like maybe the first or second day of the year of school, we're mid-bus ride home, the ACs go down a little bit, and it starts getting really quiet on the bus. And I just say out loud for no reason, "Why is everybody so quiet?" And the bus driver immediately piped up, "If anybody remembers which the person yelling was there for, I said to try to keep the volume level down when the ACs are running low." You know, I'm quite the socially anxious person now. I don't know if that contributed to it, but it definitely didn't help. I slunk down in that bus seat and felt like a moron. The kid in front of me literally lifted their arm over the back of their seat and started pointing at me as the bus driver was saying that stuff. I was cringing inside why did I even say that? I knew the reason. Wavehead21 commented, "To be fair, my experience even with Episode 7 Midnight Premiere was everyone cheering at the Star Wars logo popping up. It's honestly a common reaction, maybe more so in the theater than in a lecture hall, but your logic is valid." Tactical Technician commented, "I went to see the movie with my uncle at the very first screening in my city, the day before the official release. He is the biggest fan of the movies. I literally saw him cry when the logo appeared and at the 'Chewie, we're home' line. People just go crazy with Star Wars. It's incredible." Didn't do it when someone brought him a poster of the movie, however, because, context. Our next story is, today I messed up by taking a drug test like I was still in the military. So this happened today and I still can't stop cringing. I had to take a pre-employment drug test for a new job. No big deal, I've done dozens of these during my time in the military. If you know, you know. The military way is full send, no shame, pants and undies around the knees, standing there like you're about to get hazed, while some poor soul stares directly at your junk to verify you're not faking it. Anyway, I show up to the testing facility, sign in, get called back, and the guy hands me the cup and leads me to the bathroom. I just go into autopilot mode, drop trowel, pull down my underwear, start doing my thing, totally exposed. That's when I hear the guy's voice through the door. Sir, I don't have to watch you pee, I just have to stand outside the stall." Cue me realizing I am full-on pants down in a civilian bathroom like I'm back in basic training, even though no one is watching. Just standing there, exposed for absolutely no reason like an idiot. I quickly finished, cleaned up what little pride I had left, and shuffled out of the bathroom like a dog that knocked over a vase. The guy didn't say anything afterward, but I swear he had that look in his eyes like he had just witnessed something both confusing and mildly traumatic. So yeah. Today I messed up by forgetting I'm not in the military anymore and accidentally giving a solo performance in the drug test bathroom. I feel like this is one of those elements of the military that would make the average person uncomfortable to hear about, but they don't commonly actually hear about it. At least not in my experience. I haven't heard too many people who served going around talking about the mandatory full-on inspection pee test they do. I guess my question is, how do they select the poor soul that has to actually verify things? Ninja Nikki 91 commented, "My first test after I got out, the lady handed me the cup and gave me directions. I asked her if she had to go in with me and watch the stream coming out. She laughed and said, 'Oh no, honey, I don't get paid enough for that.' She understood when I told her I had just gotten out and was used to being watched. I drank so much water prior to that because I'm a shy peer and expected it to take me a long time to go." Our next story is, today I messed up by making a bad mojito. I was a little tipsy after a six-pack, but I thought, I could be drunker. I wanted a mojito. I checked my pantry and I realized I have rum. I checked my fridge and confirmed that I have soda water, but I don't have mint. I don't know why. I usually have mint for non-mojito purposes. What I do have is some mint extract that I found in my pantry. You can see where this is going. I grabbed my rum, Malibu, eyeballed a shot, too large, put in an unwise amount of mint extract. It was supposed to be a teaspoon, it's way more than a teaspoon, and finished the small glass with soda water, should have used a bigger glass. I swear that I can taste the mint with my eyeballs. On another note, I'm pretty drunk, so success? This is one of those classic task failed successfully type situations. I mean, you got where you wanted to go in the end, you just kinda took the wrong car to get there. Survey Monkey commented, a teaspoon of mint extract? Even if it wasn't a fat teaspoon, that's way too much. Are you sure it didn't call for a teaspoon of mint leaves? That would be more like a few drops of extract. Our next story is, today I messed up by thinking my sickness and diarrhea was a medication side effect. So I, female 29, just recently started on Mounjaro, prescribed for diabetes. I started having tummy issues fairly recently and just assumed it was a side effect. Loads of people online and in patient groups report having sickness and diarrhea. I started taking loperamide, so I didn't crap myself at work, and just plodded on. Recently, my husband started noticing food we bought was going off very quickly despite us just buying it. Sausages, meat, yogurts with over a week of date just tasting funny. It happened so gradually we didn't realize. We bought a fridge temperature from Amazon to double check that the fridge was working all good. Our freezer was working fine, so we didn't suspect anything was wrong. We have also historically had issues with supermarket foods going bad quickly due to quality. Well, it turns out it's not any of those issues. Our fridge is currently sitting at 15 degrees Celsius, 3 times the ideal temperature. Not only have me and my husband likely been eating expired food, but I've foolishly been thinking it was down to starting Mounjaro. I feel like a complete idiot. We've now started trying to troubleshoot the fridge issues, so wish me luck. Edited to add, my husband has an iron gut, so he tends not to get as ill as I do. So if anybody out there doesn't know, Mounjaro is kind of like similar, it's like the equivalent to Ozempic. And one of the most common side effects of that, and really, I think from what I've heard, most diabetes medications, is having to run to the bathroom quite a bit. So I think the real problem is not necessarily that OP thought it was the medication, but that the timing of things was just so inconvenient that it seemed like it was the medication. And truth be told, it still could be the medication. Our next story is, today I messed up by forgetting cultural standards aren't the same when eating edibles. I live in Canada, and even when it's not one of our 9 months of winter, we lack places with sun and sand. So a while back, I went to California for vacation with 3 buddies to visit a longtime friend who lives in the greater LA metropolitan area. LA has some great bars with lots of attractive women, and we did plan to go hopping for at least one night. For me, that was not the fun activity. I only tolerated it because I haven't drank for 5 years. I have good reasons to avoid alcohol. I drank too much for too long due to PTSD from over a decade as a paramedic. I don't have similar feelings about THC. I'm usually the last man standing in a joint smoking contest. It's not destructive for me, I'm in a good place with it. My American buddy knows this and planned ahead for me. I sent him a few $100 so he could order me some edibles and other cannabis products for my week-long stay. The night we went out, the first 2 bars we went to, I just smoked a joint outside while they smashed tequila. Fun was had all around. At our 3rd bar, I abandoned joints and started into edibles. I ate 3 packages in about 15 minutes. Before I ate and finished my 4th, my friend caught that one because he said, "You should slow down. That might be more than even you're able to handle, dude. You aren't a weed-smoking demigod." I was confused. 50 milligrams per package is normal. 200 milligrams is a high but manageable dose for me. It concerned me when my friend pointed out that each package he provided contained 500 milligram, not 50 milligram. He ordered them online and didn't buy them at a public serving store. I didn't know that was a thing. I buy all my weed from brick and mortar stores. I took a dose 10 times higher than I would have because 500 milligrams per pack translated to 50 milligrams per pack in my brain, which was in line with my province's rules on legal weed sales for max THC. I wasn't yet too high for math, so I understood what I did. 2,000 milligrams is a factor of 10 higher than my goal. It's a scary number and would be very expensive to achieve for one sitting where I live. So maybe that's why I blinked on the extra zero. Good thing he stopped me. I had more on hand as a just in case. I wasn't concerned I was going to die. I've worked in EMS long enough to know a fatal marijuana overdose isn't something that happens. I knew I took more than was probably going to be fun at times, however. I was correct. That was the highest I've been since the time 25 years ago when I first smoked too much ganja at age 14. I'm not gonna lie, that was very uncomfortable for a few hours. I wasn't close to normal for about 4 hours. I stayed at the bar because my friends didn't find any humor in letting me escape the consequences of my illiteracy. They thought it the height of comedy. I eventually get back to base camp and was much more careful when reading labels until we flew back to Canada. I still miss the freedom to do that. I finally understand the phrase, America, freak yeah. You know, there should be a very big asterisk next to the phrase, I still miss the freedom to do that. America is a pretty big place and there are plenty of places within it that you very much do not have the freedom to do that and will go to jail for it. Scary Alternative 11 commented, Jesus Christ almighty, 2,000 milligrams? I can't even imagine. I accidentally ate a 100 milligram once, had a panic attack, and hid in my friend's garage for reasons I don't even know. And I've been a regular user for over 20 years. Our next story is, today I messed up by relying on a battery keypad while away on vacation for over 2 weeks. I'm currently on day 14 of a 17-day vacation, more than 2,000 miles from home. At my house, I use a battery-powered and Wi-Fi connected keypad to unlock and lock the front door. The lock has a spot for a physical key that I keep on my keychain but never use. There are no spare physical keys hidden outside or kept with a friend. 2 weeks ago, I left on vacation. I double-checked that all the back and side doors were secure and gave the front door code to my cat sitter. Since I was going to be out of town, I left my keys at home figuring that I wouldn't need them while thousands of miles away. While enjoying my vacation, the cat sitter stopped by every 2 to 3 days to feed and water the cat and make sure everything was good at the house. On day 10 of my trip, I get an alert on my phone that the battery on the lock is low. I think about how the cat sitter only needs to come by 2 or 3 more times and then I'll be home and can change the battery. I assumed it should last those few uses. On day 12, the cat sitter came by and got into the house without issue. Then, later that night, I get a message that the battery is critically low. I start to worry and ask the cat sitter to change the battery the next time she's there. Then, on day 13, last night, I get a notification that the lock has been offline for 24 hours and I realize that it is completely dead. I started researching the particular lock we have and realized that there is no way to get the front door unlocked without the physical key, which is safely inside my house. My cat sitter and I are locked outside of the house, and there's still 5 days before I can get home. I started thinking through my options. I could call a locksmith, but most won't do the work without me. The homeowner, present, and the cat definitely needs food and water before I can make it home. I decided to call a friend and asked him to try and break into my house. He went to my house today and first tried his amateur lockpicking skills, while I anxiously watched through the security camera. After no luck trying the front and a side door, he decided to check my windows. Sure enough, my bedroom window wasn't latched and he was able to climb in through the window that was about 6 feet off the ground. Once inside, he was able to replace the battery on the lock and secured the window he had used to break in. After giving the cat some extra love and pets, he left, taking the physical key with him in case the lock stops working again. The cat sitter has since come by and was able to get in without issue. From now on, I'll be making sure I have a backup method for getting into my house and not relying on a battery-powered lock. You know, maybe asking defeats the point, but I'm kind of wondering, what is a good go-to method of hiding an extra key kind of around your house, assuming you even have a yard or a front porch or something to hide something on that isn't so stereotypically obvious, let's check under the front door mat. Do people go and order garden gnomes with hidden key containers in it or something? I know for a fact that I've seen fake electrical plugs. Maybe that's something if you have an outlet on the outside of your house. iNoobs commented, "Hello fellow humans. Make sure you water your cat at least every 2 to 3 days with only 250 milliliters of water, otherwise it'll rot too much from moisture in their fur in 2 to 3 days. Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally spending my emergency fund on what I thought was a great deal. I've been pretty good about spending money lately. Had about $800 that I won on stake, which felt pretty solid for me. I was scrolling Facebook Marketplace when I saw this amazing deal on a gaming setup. The guy was selling his whole rig plus monitor for $600 and it looked legit in the photos. Long story short, I got way too excited and transferred the money immediately without thinking. Met up with a dude at some parking lot, and the second I saw the setup, I knew I freaked up. The gaming computer was basically a 10-year-old office PC with a fancy-looking case, and the monitor had a huge crack down the middle that somehow wasn't visible in any of his photos. When I asked about returning it, he just shrugged and said, "All sales final, bro," then drove off. I stood there in that parking lot holding a broken monitor, feeling like the biggest idiot on earth. The worst part is that my car started making weird noises literally 3 days later, and now I actually need that emergency money I just blew on electronic garbage. My mechanic wants $400 just to look at it. So yeah, apparently I'm the type of person who throws away months of careful budgeting because I see something shiny on the internet. Learn from my stupidity, people. Now, I don't think I've ever necessarily made a purchase that quite bad, but there's definitely been times where I probably would have been better served if I was like, "Don't do it, Stephen, you don't need it, you like having money, don't you?" But, most people buy something that they regret at some point, right? Right? Sharpshout commented, "Wait, you transferred the money before you even laid eyes on the computer? Bro, that's online selling 101. Don't show the cash until you verify it is what it says it is." Our next story is, today I messed up by ordering hot wings. This happened about a month ago, but my brother just reminded me of it, so I figured I would post it. My oldest nephew, brother's stepson, was graduating high school, so naturally I went to the graduation, and after, we all went to Buffalo Wild Wings together for dinner, and my sister-in-law's sister was paying for everyone, so I wouldn't pass up a free hot meal. We get there, and I'm looking at the menu. Now, I like spicy food. I don't love it, but I like it. I keep a bottle of Taco Bell fire sauce in my fridge. My dad's from Buffalo, so we were raised having buffalo chicken frequently. They have a little chart on the menu, and I see hot is like 75% of the way up. I assumed that hot was their default buffalo sauce. They had a lot of sweeter sauces to cater to the non-spicy crowd, and a few hotter ones to cater to the spicy crowd, and oh, I was wrong. So naturally, I get my wings hot. Again, assuming it would be their signature hot sauce and not overly spicy. The wings get delivered, my brother's next to me, and he starts tearing up because of the fumes of spiciness coming from my plate. I pick a wing up, take a bite, and I feel the fires of heck raining down inside my mouth. My sister-in-law's sister's boyfriend is sitting across from me eating sweet wings, and he makes a comment about being able to taste the spicy fumes coming from my wings. Again, I've been using hot sauce fairly regularly my whole life, and most hot sauce, again, isn't very hot. I start chugging my Mountain Dew, and the waitress sees me. My brother starts laughing at me because I'm going red in the face, and the waitress rushes over with a drink, insisting with me that I need to drink something. I ended up finishing my side dish, brought the wings home to my dad, and watched him eat the whole box like it was nothing. So personally, I would like to clarify that I fall very firm on the white side of spicy. I'm not a spice-tolerant person. I can have hot wings, but I like to douse them in ranch, so it doesn't really count. All I can say is, anytime I've ever ordered from Buffalo Wild Wings, I've gone out of my way to make sure I get mild wings. Anecdotally, I was told by a friend that was on a work trip that one of their coworkers who loves spicy stuff ordered hot wings at Buffalo Wild Wings, and it was insanely hot. He described it to me as, when you think you would be ordering what is very normal run-of-the-mill hot wings, you are getting something that is way spicier than that. Hey GFY commented, "Carbonated soft drinks are the worst choice. The bubbles pop and spread the capsaicin around in your mouth. Water is no better. You need milk or ice cream. The protein casein combines with the capsaicin and neutralizes it. Start small, my friend. Dice a habanero in your garden salad. Eat a jar of sliced jalapenos. Taco Bell fire sauce is nice to put on scrambled eggs, but it won't get you used to true heat." Jemima Puddleduke 678 commented, "Water is slightly better in that it doesn't spread the capsaicin much in my experience, but gives a temporary cooling sensation. Milk is way better though, as are any other substances that'll leave a longer term effect on your mouth to help it feel cooler." Our next story is, today I messed up by agreeing to babysit my friend's kid without thinking it through. My friends asked me if I could watch her 5-year-old for a few hours because she had some last-minute work thing, and I was like, sure, how hard can it be, right? So I don't have kids, but I figured out cartoons and snacks would do the job. The first hour was fine. We watched Coco Melon laying on Netflix, and I gave him some juice and snacks, so everything's fine. Then out of nowhere, this kid goes crazy. He starts sprinting around my apartment, screaming about being a superhero, and climbs onto my couch and launches himself off of it like he's trying to take flight. I was trying to get him to sit down, but he's just too fast and I was too confused. Like, I just didn't know what to do. He somehow even found my toothbrush and started banging it against the floor while yelling something about dragons or some crap. I genuinely considered calling my friend and telling her to come get him immediately. By the time my friend came back, the place was a disaster and I was sweating like crazy, and her kid was calmly eating crackers on the floor like nothing happened. I don't know how parents do this every day. Not that I would ever condone it, but when behavior like this breaks out, it's not surprising why some parents do the bottom level thing and just hand them the tablet. Also, I am incredibly out of touch with anything Coco Melon, but is it as like brain rot level content as I think it to be? Like, I grew up with Steve from Blue's Clues asking me questions and waiting for my constructive feedback. Is Coco Melon even in like the ballpark? All I know, to be honest, is just that it's huge. Seaworks commented, "This is predictable. Watching TV might keep their attention, but it doesn't tire a kid out or engage them physically. Kids want to play. So do adults, we just grind it out of them. They also aren't good at emotional recognition. Do you have something to dig? A ball to throw? Being the sports announcer while a kid rustles a stuffed animal is cool. I've let kids give me tattoos with markers, act like it's scary and you want them to reassure you. Obviously, nobody wants a kid to get hurt, but play is important for their health. You could even do a workout game or video with them. You didn't know. Now you know. Reflect on what being a kid was like for you." Our next story is, today I messed up. I ruined my kid's driver's test. I reside in that terrifying period of having a child old enough to drive. They still have their learner's permit, but it's hardly for want of trying. To date, we have now had 5 attempts at the road test, but with 2 actual road tests. The first time we arrived at the DMV, we were presented with signs indicating that functionality of the car's windows would be tested. Problem: the passenger side window of my car doesn't roll down because the actuator is broken. Scratch that road test. Schedule another one with a different vehicle by imposing on my in-laws because I have neither the energy to fix it myself nor the money to get it fixed right now. We arrive for the second time at the DMV, pass through the line, as one does, and arrive at the desk. We're informed that all road tests are canceled for the rest of the day due to a severe accident on the route. Having seen that accident while we were driving around earlier, we hope everyone was okay. It was 2 motorcycles versus a box truck. It's disappointing, but understandable. Take 3. Other than the kid failing the actual test because they drove too slowly, this one is uneventful. Bit of a trick question in that area since the road speed isn't actually marked. So is take 4, aside from another failure, this time for creating a dangerous situation. Something about some jerk speeding up as they were about to turn, and they had to brake partway through the intersection to avoid the jerk. Frankly, I'm okay with them failing for defensive driving, even if I think being dinged for driving defensively is silly. I also understand that the kid's description of events may differ from what the tester saw. And now we come to take 5. I picked them up from school to drive to the DMV, which is a good 45 minutes away from our semi-rural town. I've coordinated with my in-laws about using their car for the test. We're 10 minutes from the DMV when I realize I forgot their birth certificate at home, a piece of paper which is absolutely critical for the road test, and which they won't do the test without. It's not physically possible to get home and back in the time for the test, so they can't take it. The kid takes the news with understandable upset, and I want to cry. I've had to take time off work to do this, and now I have to do it a 6th time. And I've just severely disappointed my kid, who is desperate to get their driver's license. As somebody who admittedly drove maybe 3 times before taking my actual driver's test and passing said test, I feel like OP should go out of their way to try to go to a different testing center to try to get this test done, because honestly, it almost sounds like it's too strict wherever they're going. Like, is it not almost a meme how, like, you almost just have to show up to the driver's test and they just, like, hand you the keys and say, good luck out there? Now, I will say I did fail my first electronic/written test. Apparently, you couldn't get more than, I don't know, 3 wrong or something like that. I remember a few questions coming up that were like, what is the minimum width of tire tread that you should have on your car? And then like another question that came up was about the legality of mopeds, which I didn't study anything about mopeds. Shadows Car 00 commented, I failed my first driving test for taking a right turn too wide and endangering everyone in the vehicle. It was actually an empty road in a small town, literally no other vehicles, and my left tire crossed over into the imaginary residential road other lane because residential roads don't really have lanes. Why did I swing wide? Big butt piece of wood laying on the right side of the road. I would have failed if I just ran right over it. Let your kid know that some of the testers are legitimately just jerks who will fail you for the most microscopic infractions, even if they were correct. My first tester was very well known for failing everyone on their first test, even if they aced it, because he personally believed nobody could learn how to drive without failing the test. Sometimes it's not the driver's fault. Edit, god dang, they really need to make the driver's test testers take a driver's test. Y'all all have had your testers fail you because you avoided an accident. Our next story is, today I messed up by making a random old woman think I was planning to get freaky at prom. My high school prom was about a year ago, and I bought a black jumpsuit covered in gold sequins for the occasion. I also bought a headpiece from Amazon that essentially amounted to a black and gold flower crown. I absolutely love the outfit, but I'm extremely short, like 5'1" on my tippy toes short. So the jumpsuit ended up being a good few inches too long for me. Luckily, there was a tailor 5 minutes from my house. So my mom and I stopped by one afternoon after doing some shopping together. I changed into the jumpsuit, and as the tailor was pinning what he needed to, an elderly woman walked in. She started gushing about the jumpsuit, and my mom and I ended up chatting with her about my plans for prom. Here is where I should mention that I'm autistic. Only level 1, but it still does affect my life on a daily basis. Most notably, giving me sensory processing issues and making me incredibly socially awkward, especially in the presence of strangers. So, my mom and this old lady were discussing my prom outfit, and they mentioned the flower crown, which happened to be extremely itchy and triggered my sensory processing issues. So this lady was like, "Oh my gosh, that outfit will be so cute." And I said, "Yeah, let's see how long it stays on though." I cannot stress this enough. I was referring to the itchy flower crown and nothing else. But obviously, that's not how it came across, and there was a real beat of extremely painful silence where both my mom and the old woman looked at me in utter horror, and then I realized and started tripping over my words trying to clarify what I meant. But the damage was done, and the conversation dropped off into an awkward silence while I changed out of the jumpsuit, and as soon as we paid, I ran out of that shop like my feet were on fire. Hey, I for one say, good on you, Tiger. You go enjoy that prom experience. CM Palmer 52 commented, my wife was a teacher, retired, and a few years we chaperoned the prom. One girl came in with the shortest dress I have ever seen. She walked by, and one of the teachers said to us after she'd gone, well, that'll be convenient later. Won't even have to take it off. Our next story is, today I messed up by having bad gas and letting someone else get blamed multiple times. I was in jiu-jitsu class. I'm the only woman, so I think people assume I would not fart. I'm lactose intolerant, so it was bad, silent but deadly. I could not hold it back with the exercise. First time, the guys around me all started blaming each other. They were angry that someone dared fart near me. They said that they do it all the time when no women are around, but since I was there, they needed to be classy. Second time was when the instructor was talking to me. The instructor turned to the guy next to me and angrily said, I am talking to her. Why did you have to do that when I'm talking to her? I let them take the blame and didn't speak up. It was embarrassing and hilarious at the same time. Maybe they're just playing the whole, like, save face and give her an out game. You know, the whole make her feel comfortable amongst us guys by pretending she didn't do it and blaming it on somebody else. I mean, it just seems too perfect when the guy's like, I'm talking to her right now. Can you not fart right now? Thinzier commented, they all know it was you. Don't deceive yourself otherwise. They were gracious in letting you off the hook. Probably to let you save face so you didn't get so embarrassed you wanted to never come back, which is good because it means they want you to come back. But men know that women's farts stink worse than ours, and the science backs that since women's farts have a higher concentration of hydrogen sulfide, aka the rotten egg gas, that often gives women's farts their extra pungency. Thanks, Thinsier, for your comment. Our next story is, today I messed up by accidentally dumping 132 silica pearls into my dinner. I quite frequently buy big packs of tofu skin. When the pack is almost finished, I just dump the last bits into whatever I'm cooking, while taking out the silica gel packet that always comes in the bag. Meal done, I sit down to eat, and in the first chew, I felt a crack, as if I had just chomped down on a piece of sand. Inspected the food, and quickly found a bunch of glass-like pearls and realized the silica gel pack must have been broken. I don't like wasting food, and what I'd made was really delicious, so instead of throwing it out and making something new, I decided to search through the food as I was eating it with chopsticks. I know silica isn't poisonous or harmful, other than potential choking hazards for children. I figured it couldn't be that bad or take too long. I managed to only get a couple more in my mouth, which were easily discarded upon discovery. The rest were gently picked out of the food with my superior chopstick skills. I counted them all after I was done eating, and the result was 131 pearls. That's 132 with the first one I discovered and accidentally ate. Instead of being a usual 5 to 10 minute mealtime, this took about an hour and 20 minutes, resulting in the most tedious meal of my life. I will never just dump the bag out again, and always check if a silica bag has been broken. Now, isn't the fact that it says don't eat this the fact that it absorbs so much water? I mean, I guess if it gets into your food and it makes it all the way to being served, maybe there's an assumption that most of them have absorbed most of the water they can, I don't know. Regardless though, OP is a much braver person than I would be, because if I found out that atrocity happened, even if it's one of my most favorite foods on earth, I'm still tossing it. I'm not gonna mess around trying to eat around my silica-infused tofu skin. I want to see how Gordon Ramsay would react to that story. Gear commented, silica gel is also a common food additive in powdered or hydrated form. It's often mixed into powdered spices to keep them from clumping due to moisture, and many varieties of toothpaste use silica gel as the abrasive that does most of the work of cleaning your teeth. It's labeled "do not eat" because it isn't intended to be eaten, and they don't want you mistaking it for a seasoning packet or something, not for safety reasons. Source: my father is a retired chemical engineer and salesman who spent most of his career working with and selling silica gel. Our next story is, today I messed up by trying to start a standing ovation. I've always been obsessed with the psychology of clapping. Why do audiences clap longer for certain things rather than other things? Also, how do we all collectively know when to stop clapping? Is it a hive mind type of thing we're all tapped into? Then there's the standing ovation, which blows my mind. Why do some standing ovations catch on while others fail? I developed a theory that the success of the standing ovation rests solely on the first person to stand. If that person stands with enough confidence and enthusiasm, the rest of the people will stand too. I decided to test my theory at the community center today. Some old lady made a humongous quilted blanket that depicted a bunch of orange and yellow cats wearing floppy sun hats. She was donating it to be auctioned off at the bazaar to raise money. After she brought the quilt up, everyone started clapping nicely. I was in the third row, and I stood up very confidently and inconspicuously and started clapping with force. I looked around, but not a single other person was even making the smallest motion to budge out of their chairs. After a few seconds, I sheepishly sat back down. My theory must have been flawed. Now everyone's going to think I'm ultra obsessed with cat quilts. Well, I certainly think there could be worse things than being the guy who's ultra obsessed with cat quilts or something. That said, I don't think OP's logic is necessarily flawed, but I think it's only one half of it, and the other half is clearly the subject material. If somebody is retiring, or this lady's cat quilt was one that she worked on for 15 years or something, or your pilot just made an emergency landing that saved all of the people on board's lives, that would be something that takes one person enthusiastically standing up and clapping to cause a standing ovation. But just one lady making a quilt to donate to charity, the level of respect and enthusiasm of that material is going to be, oh, that's amazing, that's really nice, not, woo, yeah, amazing. Ragnarok 7771 commented, you may be right, but it has to warrant standing. A very good onstage theater performance would warrant it at the end. Cat quilt? The bar's too low there. A standing ovation is a consequence of the audience's acknowledgement of multiple points of excellence, not one. Our next story is, today I messed up by leaving my luggage at home and not realizing until I was at the airport. I, female 22, tend to procrastinate but get things done, and that includes preparing for a flight. Yesterday was a fairly busy day for me, so it wasn't until 8 or 9 that I actually got to start packing. In the end, everything, as in my hair, nails, outfit, necessities, was together by 2 a.m. I have to leave by 4:50 a.m. No worries though, a quick power nap before I leave, and then I can just sleep on the plane. Morning comes around and I wake up at 4:33. Could be worse. I somewhat frantically get myself together and head out the door. When I see my driver waiting outside, I said thank you and that it's not heavy at all, referring to my suitcase. It was light as a feather, but I packed light since it's a one-day trip, so it makes sense. I get to the airport, which is an hour away from my home, and have an hour till boarding. I stand in the security line when a person who works there comes up to me and asks, "What airline are you flying with?" I thought it was a weird question to ask since no one has ever asked me that before, but I was groggy and said, "American." She said, "Okay, you'll have to check your bag." I took a slight pause, looked down, and finally registered what is by my side. Not only is it not my carry-on that I packed for this flight, but a big empty suitcase that now needs to be checked in. To add some context in, both bags are essentially the same, just one is bigger than the other. I got ready in the dark and even managed to put my pants on inside out. Anyways, back to the story. I take 5 seconds before realizing that I won't have time to go back and get my actual luggage. So I go and get my empty bag checked. I somehow very quickly talked myself out of having a panic attack and just accept that this is what it is now. My heart is still racing and I still can't think too much about it since I'll just stress myself out. Now my trip just got more expensive. What brings me peace is knowing that I'm not the first person this has happened to, so I'll more or less be okay. I may be going to a state I've never been to, but it's still domestic. I kind of sort of have the funds to continue on with this trip, and I have a backpack with my essentials, so I'm not too out of luck. So now, instead of going to my hotel and settling, I'll be frantically looking for stuff before the reason I went on this trip in the first place, a concert. I have about 2 to 4 hours, which should be reasonable, or at least that's what I keep telling myself. Oh, and did I mention this is my first solo trip? At least I'll have an interesting travel story. Edit, by one-day trip I meant I was staying there for one night, so it's actually a 2-day trip. I think what made this all make much more sense is the fact that OP said this is their first solo trip. I'm human too, I'm right there with OP. I probably would make some foolish last-second mistake because I'm not like hyper-critical and taking care of everything well ahead of time. Let's be real though, OP's going on a 2-day trip and they're only going there for a concert. It's not like the worst thing ever to just wear out the one outfit. It's not really like OP needs to go out and blow a whole bunch of money on a wardrobe or something. I mean, at the worst, buy some like cheapo dollar stuff from Walmart or something. Circle of Friends commented, "It sucks, but I always think if you have your passport, you can get everything else at the airport or when you're there. You could even discover you look great in Bermuda shorts." Valiant Strawberry commented, "Yeah, as my stepmom always says, there's a store in every town. It's far from ideal, but it's not the end of the world either. Especially since OP's in a position to afford it without too much strain." Our next story is, today I messed up by pretending to know how to roller skate on a first date and ending up in the ER. This happened last night and my ankle is currently freaked. I matched with this girl on Tinder who's a bit adventurous, and when we were planning a first date, she suggested roller skating. I don't know why, but instead of admitting I have the balance of an old man, I said, "Yeah, I love roller skating, let's do it." I don't know why I do this to myself. Fast forward to the rink, she shows up and skating like a professional, and I'm standing there trying to act like I know what I'm doing. The first 5 minutes were okay because we were just holding on to the rail and talking, but then she's like, "Let's go to the middle, it's easier there." So I let go of the rail, and immediately my legs started shaking like they're moving independently of my brain. She started laughing and trying to encourage me, but then I hit this tiny little pebble or maybe a shadow, and suddenly I started flying. I saw my life flash before my eyes before I slammed down hard on my left side. I tried to play it off like it didn't hurt, but my ankle was already freaked. She helped me to a bench, and that's when we both realized it was swelling fast. So we ended the date early, and she actually insisted on driving me to the ER herself, which was very sweet but also very humiliating. While I was sitting there in the waiting room with an ice pack wrapped around my foot, I was trying so hard not to look like I was in pain that I just pulled out my phone and started listening to calming music for pain relief on YouTube to distract myself. Worst music ever, but it kept me from focusing on the pain. Anyway, now I'm officially the guy who lied about knowing how to skate, wiped out in front of a girl I like, and spent the rest of the night in the ER. So I am imploring OP to look at this as ultimately a good thing with one caveat. They come out and tell the truth. Look, I wanted to look like I knew what I was doing. I don't know a dang thing about skating, and I absolutely wiped out on my butt. I mean, the girl OP was with was laughing, encouraging OP, took them to the ER. I feel like if they were bothered or not interested, it would have gone completely different than it did. But I think OP has to have the ability to have that egg on their face and just admit the truth. Agent of Evil 13 commented, "Ouch. And to think you could have admitted your inexperience and had a bunch of cute teach me moments." In high school, I took a girl I was seeing kayaking for a date, taught her the basics, and we had a great afternoon paddling around. When we got back to the boat launch, I was showing off and tried to do an Eskimo roll. I didn't quite make it back upright, and as I fell back down, I hit myself in the head with my paddle hard. I gave myself a concussion and needed stitches. Also ended the date at the ER. The stupid crap men do trying to impress women. Inozanate VR commented, "I went roller skating with a girl I met at a bar one time, and there was this very fit and muscular 7-foot tall guy zipping around, doing professional dance moves like twirls and stuff. He was really good, and at one point I was flailing around and starting to lose my balance, and right as I thought I was about to fall, this guy picks me up, lifts me off of my feet, and gently set me back down." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy story of how a Redditor messed up, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.